What's up, Bears Nation? Welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your home for the latest updates, breaking news, and exclusive insights on our beloved Chicago Bears. I've been digging deep into Halas Hall's strategic vision for the next phase of our roster construction, and something extraordinary has emerged that could completely reshape how we think about our defensive identity moving forward. Stay locked in because what I'm about to share with you goes beyond typical draft speculation. This is about a potential game-changing philosophy shift that could define the next era of Bears football. The landscape of our roster has transformed dramatically over the season, and as we approach postseason with legitimate playoff aspiration, the front office is already mapping out the next wave for us. This isn't about foundational rebuilding anymore. This is about strategic reinforcement, about adding pieces that amplify our strength while addressing the subtle gaps separate good teams from championship contenders. The Bears are operating with a level of intentionality that we haven't seen in years, and the names circulating in draft discussions reveal exactly where management believes we need to evolve. Before I get into the specific player that has my attention, let me walk through the broader context, because understanding the strategy makes individual action so much more impactful. Chicago is looking at the 2026 draft class surgical precision, identifying premium positions that need fortification and depth spot where one injury could derail our momentum. The offensive line remains a priority, particularly at left tackle, where stability has frustratingly elusive despite the presence of elite interior pieces like Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson. We've also got Darnell Wright locked down at right tackle, but that left side continues to search anchor. Beyond the trenches, the pass rush rotation needs continuous infusion of talent because modern NFL defenses thrive on waves of pressure rather than depending on a single dominant edge press. Our secondary has shown flash, but requires more versatility, especially defenders who can function in multiple alignments and sub-package. The defensive line interior could use additional beef to handle the physical ground game face in our division, and special teams contributions from draft pick cannot be overlooked in today's game, where field position battle often determine out. All of these considerations are swirling as we look toward April, but there's one position and one specific prospect that has captured my imagination in ways I didn't expect. The linebacker position for the Bears has historically been about tradition, about carrying forward the legacy of names like Butkus, Singletary, and Urlacher. We value intelligence, instinct, and imp. However, the modern NFL linebacker is evolving into something different, something more versatile and matchup dependent than the traditional. Offensive coordinators are deploying more athletic tight end, more hybrid receiver lineup in various spots, and more creative personnel groupings designed to exploit traditional linebacker limitations. So how do you counter that? You find linebackers who break the conventional mold, who bring physical traits, create matchup problems for the offense rather than the other way around. This brings me to the USC Trojans and a prospect who represents one of the most physically unique players to enter the draft in recent memory. We're talking about someone who doesn't just fit the position. He redefines what's possible at the second level. At 6'6", yes, you heard that correctly, 6'6", this linebacker brings a dimension that simply doesn't exist in most schemes. To put that in perspective, most linebackers measure between 6'1", 6, and even that upper range is considered tall position. 6'6" is basketball player height, and when you translate that kind of length to a linebacker role, the possibilities become fascinating. Imagine a defender who can occupy passing lanes that traditional linebackers can't reach, who can match up physically with even the largest tight ends in the league, who can disrupt throwing windows simply by existing in certain zones. This isn't theoretical. We've seen glimpses of this profile before with players like Charles Snowden, who came out of Virginia, a similarly sized linebacker who brought unique traits to the next level. The prospect I'm referring to is Eric Gentry from USC, and projections have him available deep in the draft, potentially in the 7th round, around pick 240. Now, some of you might be thinking, 7th round? Why are we getting excited about a late round flyer? Here's why. Value in the draft isn't just about round number. It's about fit, projection, and the gap between where a player is selected and what he could become in your system. Gentry's physical profile alone makes him worth the investment at that stage of the draft, because you cannot teach 6'6". You cannot coach length. You can develop technique. You can improve instinct. You can refine footwork and assignment discipline, but you cannot add inches to a player's frame. That's God-given, and when you find that kind of rare physical trait late in the draft, you take the swing because the upside far exceeds the risk. Let me paint the picture of what Gentry Gentry could mean for our defense specifically. Think about third down situations where offenses deploy multiple tight end sets or when they try to exploit the middle of the field with seam route. Gentry's length would allow him to impact those throws in ways that a traditional linebacker simply cannot. His ability to get his hands up in passing lane, to disrupt timing routes, and to contest catches at the catch point would add a completely different dimension to our coverage pack. Against the run, his length translates to superior reach when shedding blocks and making tackle space. Offensive linemen and fullback would have a harder time establishing position on him because his arms allow him to control engagements from distance. Now, I'm not suggesting Gentry walks in and starts immediately. Seventh-round picks rarely do unless they're on truly talent-deficient rosters, which we are not. But his role could be carefully crafted to maximize his unique attributes while he develops the nuances of NFL linebacker play. He could function as a situational package defender initially, deployed in specific matchups against tight end-heavy offenses or in red zone situations where his length creates problems in compressed space. Special teams would be another immediate avenue for contribution, and his athleticism combined with his size makes him valuable on coverage units from day one. The long-term projections would excite. As Gentry gains experience, comfort in the system, he could evolve into a true hybrid defender, someone who blurs the line between linebacker and safety, who can drop deep when needed, but also handle traditional second-level responsibility. That kind of versatility gives defensive coordinators creative freedom to design looks that offenses haven't prepared for. And in a league where innovation often determines competitive advantage, having players who enable scheme creativity is invaluable. Looking at our current linebacker room, we have solid pieces, but nobody who brings Gentry's specific profile. Adding him wouldn't just be about depth, it would be about expanding our defensive playbook and giving our coaching staff additional tools to attack opposing offense. The NFC North is built on physical football, on teams that can run the ball effectively and control the line of scrimmage, but it's also increasingly about creative offensive schemes from coordinators who understand modern concepts. Having a defender who can counter both traditional power football and modern spread concepts makes our defense more complete and harder to game plan. I also appreciate that this potential selection aligns with how successful organizations operate in the draft. They don't just pick the best player available. They identify traits they value and bet on those traits translating to their system. The Bears have shown under current management that they believe in specific archetypes, and Gentry fits the profile of a high-upside athlete with developmental runway. That's the kind of bet you make in the 7th round. That's where you find guys who become course teamers or surprise rotational contributors because nobody else saw what you saw in their tape. So here's my comprehensive take on the Eric Gentry possibility. If the Bears select him in the 7th round of the 2026 draft, it represents smart value hunting combined with strategic roster construction. It adds a unique physical element to our linebacker group without requiring significant draft capital and provides immediate special teams help while offering long-term projection as a matchup-based defender. And most importantly, it demonstrates that our front office thinking creatively about how to build sustained competitive advantage through unconventional player profile. That's the kind of forward-thinking approach that championship organizations employ, and it's exactly what Bears fans should want to see from their team. Now I need to hear from you, Bears Nation. What do you think about the possibility of drafting Eric Gentry? Does his 6'6" frame excite you as much as it excites me? Or do you have concerns about projecting that kind of unique size to the linebacker position? Would you rather see the Bears use that 7th round pick differently? Or do you believe in taking swings on high upside athletes late in the draft? Drop your thoughts in comments below, because I genuinely want to know how you're viewing this potential move. Your perspective matters, and building this community means hearing from all of you about where you think our beloved Bears should be heading. If you found value in this deep dive analysis and want to stay ahead of every Bears development, every draft rumor, and every strategic move coming out of Hall, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. I'm committed to bringing you the most thorough, thoughtful content about our Chicago Bears, and your support allows me to keep delivering these breakdowns. Share this video with your fellow Bears fans. Let's get the conversation going across our entire community about the future of this franchise. Together, we're building something special here on Bears News Fan Report, and I appreciate every single one of you who makes this channel what it is. Bear down, and I'll see you in the next video.